officially say welcome to everybody. I am Paula Holland DeLong. I'm the VP of Programming for the ICF South Florida chapter. And I really want to welcome you guys being here today. We really appreciate having you. And it's going to be an interesting presentation, somewhat interactive. And I'm thrilled to have you here, so welcome. I definitely want to introduce you all to Keely Merritt. Keely is a ICF South Florida new volunteer, and she is taking on the role of webinar goddess, and she is making sure that you guys are heard and that we record everything properly and all of that fantastic stuff. So I cannot tell you how grateful I am to you, Keely, for being here today, because all my stress went away once I knew you were in charge.
Thanks, Paula. And yes, if anyone has any technical difficulties or needs anything, please feel free to write in the chat box and I'll be the one responding. And there will be a few times that Paula will ask for your response. So I'll be reading out the chat box and checking in with everyone. Just a little bit about me. I live in Miami and I'm an internal coach at a software company called Meltwater, and I mostly work with our high potential leaders.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Well, welcome everybody, wave hello to Keely. She can't see you, but wave anyway.
Yes, and if you haven't shared where you're from, then feel free to check in and let us know where you're calling in from in the chat box.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, so give me just a second to get that going. Oops. Okay, let's see. All right, I think I started sharing too soon. Let me do this a different way. Okay. Keely, can you guys see the screen at this point?
I cannot. I can only see you right now.
Okay, then. Bear with me here.
And there, now your screen is showing.
There we go. Okay, thank you guys for bearing with me. I just want to give you a little bit of information about the South Florida Charter Chapter. Our mission: coaching is an integral part of a thriving society, and every ICF member represents the highest quality of coaching. Our vision is basically the ICF exists to lead the global advancement of the coaching profession. And truthfully, that's kind of my bandwagon, because I am a firm believer that coaching is what is going to save the world. So I really appreciate you guys being part of this event today and being part of the profession that is making such a profound difference in the world. I wanted to let you guys know we have some events coming up. On Thursday, the 21st, we are going to have Sarah McVannell in town. We're doing 2 live events in Miami Shores at Workshop 360. The first one is a lunch and learn called The Fraud Factor: Secret to Attracting and Retaining World-Class Talent. And this is not only for coaches, this is also geared to HR people, corporations, anybody who needs to attract and retain talent. So feel free to share this information with your clients. We would really like to see a lot of non-member people at this. That will be followed by a workshop, Building and Growing a Profitable Business You Absolutely Love. And these are 2 separate events. You can attend one or both, and there is a separate registration and a fee for each of them. So if you'd like to know more and you want to register, you can go to our website, click on the calendar and the date of February 21st, and you will see the info and the registration for both of those events. And I would really love to see you there, because it's going to be powerful, and Workshop 360 is a really awesome space. It's pretty easy to get to off 95, so I hope to see you there. Thanks for your interest. Let's see, you guys know that you're on mute and that we're going to be using the chat function. And the other thing that I wanted to let you know is we have had a lot of interest from you all in the last year about adding more CCU programming to our events. So we've already had one CCU event in January. You will get one CCU today, core competencies. And then as you can see, the Sarah McDonald events offer 1.5 and 3. So we're doing our best to let you know that we've heard what you want us to do and that we're really working actively to get the programming together to give you the education that you need. A little bit of housekeeping. If you logged in with your full name, that's awesome. If you did not log in with your full name, could you please put your full name in the chat? We're going to need that information to get your CEUs to you after the event. And the way, if you're only joining by phone, then you will have to reach out to email at info@icfsouthflorida.org or personally to me to get the CCEU. The way that the CCUs work is that I'm going to give you guys an opening code and a closing code for the webinar, and Keely's going to remind me if I forget. And you will get a survey from the ICF South Florida chapter within the next few days, asking you to answer a few short questions about the meeting. At the end of the survey, it will ask you if you want the CEU. You will enter the open and closing code and continue with, and then you will receive the survey via email. Or sorry, the CEU via email. If you're a member, the CEU is free. If you're not a member, there will be a $15 fee. And we do have a 30-day limit on claiming them, so don't wait till the end of the year and try and come back and get them, because that's going to be a little challenging. So look for the email, and that's going to be what you need to get the credits for being here today. So that's my business stuff. I'm going to go ahead and start the real presentation today. And it just so happens that I am also the presenter today. And that's not always the case with our chapter. It's just worked out that way. So again, I'm Paula Holland DeLong, and I want to welcome you to my Creating Sustainable Change for You and Your Clients webinar. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And when we think about sustainable change, especially at this time of the year, we often think about it in the context of lifestyle changes, being healthier. But the stuff I'm going to share with you guys today is applicable to any type of change that you or your clients aspire to undertake. The way that I got into sustainable change was when I was working with cancer survivors who were ending treatment. I'm also a survivor myself. And you would think, or maybe it's not surprising to you, that one of the biggest goals that people who are ending cancer treatment had was to make healthy lifestyle changes so they did not get sick again. And talk about motivation. After going through surgeries, chemo, radiation, and all of that crap, I can tell you that I don't ever want to do it again, and neither do these people that I was working with. So I expected it to be easy. And as it turned out, it wasn't. It turned out that if these people did not get specific coaching on how change works and guidance on how to use their body and their own energy to maintain change, they had no higher success rate of anybody else, even with that amazingly high level of motivation. So I'm going to share with you guys what I've learned, and I'm going to hopefully get your input at the end. I'm not going to be taking questions during the presentation, but I have allowed time for them at the end. So I'm going to start off going forward with this part of the presentation, starting you guys off the way I start off all of my clients in every single session in all of my groups. So we're going to breathe together for just a second. So if you have stuff in your hands, sit them down, put your feet on the ground, maybe your hands in your lap, and close your eyes, and we're just going to take 3 inhales and exhales together. So close your eyes, inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And just keep your eyes closed and notice how that breathing settles into your body. You may have come in today with some stress, or things are buzzing on your phone, but when you come into the energy of learning and creating change, the breath is a really simple tool that will shut down the busy brain and create a more neutral state in which you can absorb learning better and respond to what you're being taught better. So thank you for breathing with me. Now I'm going to just kind of give you what I have learned about sustainable change and why it works and why it doesn't. And
Paula, can I just jump in really quick so that we
yes.
can do the opening code?
Thank you so much. It is sustain. SUSTAIN, all lowercase. I knew I was going to forget, Keely. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so typically what I learned from my questioning and working with these women over many, many years was that one of the reasons that change is really hard for us is because we expect it to be. And we start off, for example, if you say you're going to want to lose weight, you want to change jobs, you want to start saving money for a big vacation. What typically starts to happen underneath your subconscious and maybe conscious is, oh God, I hate going to the gym, I don't want to exercise, and man, it costs a lot of money to go to Europe, how am I ever going to do that? And before you know it, your excitement has just kind of started to dwindle. And so whenever the human brain is challenged to change, the reptilian brain stops in and wants to prevent it because it's trying to keep you safe by not allowing you to change. It doesn't matter if what you're doing is killing you, it still doesn't want you to change. Then our saboteurs start in with all the things they're telling us of what's not going to work, what our parents believed often show up. And then you throw in the external pressures of job, family responsibilities, the societal and cultural expectations that we should be able to change easily, effortlessly, and perfectly at the drop of a hat. And it's easy to understand why it's hard for human beings to sustain long-term change. It's hard to get started. And what typically happens with me is I start making myself wrong. But what I want everybody to hear really loudly and really clearly here is that the reason it's hard is because we're hardwired that way and we're conditioned. It doesn't mean that we're awful people. It doesn't mean we're failing at anything. It's just who we are. And I challenge you to bring in a little bit of compassion for yourselves, knowing from when I learned this, it was like, oh my God, I'm not a great big loser, yay! And I hope you can feel that way too. Because what typically happens when my clients engage in change, it starts with a should. I should do something. And hopefully if it may not be a should, and if they have a coach, the coach will make sure it isn't, but it moves to I will. And for this example, I'm going to use eating healthier. So you've made the decision you're going to eat healthier. You're going to start having green smoothies in the morning. You're going to have salad at lunch, and you're going to have protein and vegetables at night. And you're going to do that until everything is the way you want it to be. So you get up the first morning and you make your smoothie and you suck it down and it's great, and you move on to work and things are going okay. And about 11 o'clock, there's a great big client crisis. Things are going crazy, everything exploding. You have to take the client to smooth things over. And the client doesn't want salad. The client wants burgers and fries. So you have burgers and fries, but you're like, it's okay because I'll eat healthy tonight. And you get home and you're looking forward to your vegetables and your protein, and there on the table is the pizza that your loving husband brought for you because he knows you've had a stressful day and you deserve pizza. And so what are you going to do? You eat the pizza. And by then, you're kind of starting to have a little bit of, oh man, I didn't do it at lunch, I didn't do it at dinner, but you know what, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And you get up the next morning and you have the great intentions and you're making your smoothie, and your child unfortunately throws up all over you. The smoothie goes out the window. You go into a dead rush to clean yourself and the child up, get to school and work on time. If you're lucky, you hit the McDonald's window for a breakfast and the green smoothie is history. But that's okay, because you're going to have a salad at lunch. So you have your salad at lunch and you're back to feeling decent about yourself. In the middle of the afternoon, the client thing is blowing up again and you're going, I'm pretty hungry because that salad didn't really fill me up like the burger and fries might have. And you remember that you have a candy bar in your desk. So you say to yourself, I'm just going to have half that candy bar and I'm going to save the rest of it. And you take it out, and about the same time the phone rings and it's the client. And by the time you're off the phone, the candy bar's gone. So you're okay, you go home and you eat your healthy dinner and you're still okay and you're going to do it tomorrow. And then the next day comes and there's another crisis in the morning and you don't. And you're already kind of feeling kind of guilty because you didn't do it fully perfectly the few days before. So you're already kind of a little bit down on yourself. And so, you know, okay, everything's crazy. I'm going to skip the smoothie this morning, but I'm going to do the rest of the day. And it spirals downward from there. And within a very short number of days, you have moved into the procrastination paralysis cycle. And this is a really crappy place that most of us are familiar with. But it's awful. And just picture it with me. You know, you have the good intention, you start to do it okay, the world gets in the way, you start to beat yourself up, and then it gets worse, and all of a sudden you're not doing it at all, but you're still beating yourself up about it over and over and over again. And I'd like you guys to close your eyes right now and picture something in your life that procrastination paralysis could possibly be applied to. Something that you want to do, you have great intention about it, but somehow you just keep not doing it. And you feel bad about it, but somehow you don't ever quite feel bad enough to get out of it. And I want you to really notice in your body what this energy feels like right now. You're probably crunched in, your stomach's tightened up, and just feel what it's like in your body to be in procrastination paralysis. That one thing that's keeping you there has the ability to keep you in this energy for a really long time. And I want to ask you, even you're in this energy, on a scale of 1 with not at all and 10 being yeah, how likely are you to engage in change, to be able to make the effort to get out of the procrastination paralysis? Take note of your number and your topic. And I want you guys now to open your eyes. And I want you to give yourself a great big hug and say to yourself, just like me, everyone gets stuck sometime. Just like me, everyone blames themselves for not being perfect sometimes. Just like me, everybody struggles with making changes sometimes. Just like me, and fill in your own words. And as you let these words and the hug sink into your body, you'll probably notice you're opening up a little bit. You're not feeling as bad as you did when you were in the energy of procrastination paralysis, and that you're in a more neutral energy. So I want to ask you guys right now to put into the chat, what rating would you have given yourself of being able to start in procrastination paralysis to make a change on 1 to 10? And what your number is now from a more neutral energy place. So I'm going to give you just a second. If your numbers, there's no right or wrong with the numbers, just whatever is your truth. That's what I'm asking you to put in right now. And Keely's going to kind of give me a little input on what you're doing.
So we have a few coming through. It looks like we have someone who started at a 7 and moved to an 8.
Okay.
Then we have a 0 that moved to a 6.
Ah.
An 8 to a 9. 6 to 9.
So we're definitely seeing increases.
7 to 8. We do have a 6 to 6.
Okay, and that's okay. That's nothing wrong with that at all.
And we have another 6 to 8.
All right. So it's kind of really interesting to see how quickly our bodies and our energies can impact our motivation and our ability to move forward. And when we get to this neutral energy, and we can do that simply by breathing, we can do it with the hug, we can do it with the just like me mantra. These are 3 tools that really help a lot in breaking through procrastination paralysis. And you can use those on yourself, and you can use them with your clients. And I guarantee you're going to be surprised at the results that you get. So we've gone from procrastination paralysis into a more neutral state. Why is my slide not moving forward? Ah, thank you. And in the neutral energy, we have our brain is not in arousal and drama or toxicity or arousal or fear. Our heart's kind of there going, yeah, I'm here, you can hear me. And it appears from this neutral energy that that could be a really great place to start creating change. And so oftentimes we'll take out our paper, our pen, and we'll, what do I want to do? Well, I want to lose 15 pounds because I'm really tired of my clothes not fitting, and I would really like to look really awesome for my next high school reunion. And so you start thinking about that, and you start making lists or ideas of what you can do. But unfortunately, because the brain is still actively engaged, it's not unusual for the saboteurs and the inner voices to kind of creep in, and all of a sudden you may be working on this stuff and you'll notice, this isn't really jazzing me up that much. I don't feel that great about this. And that's how you know that the brain has taken over, the reptilian brain, the saboteurs, the subconscious stuff. And so what I like to recommend doing, and I do this with myself and with all of my clients, is taking the energy up a level. Before we dive into the creation part of it, I want to get them into a place in which they are really jazzed. So my preferred method of doing this is with guided visualization. And you guys are all familiar with this, and you can do it many different ways. But for now, I'm going to ask you guys again to close your eyes and sit comfortably and take a few breaths. And as you're breathing, I want you to recall that thing that you've been procrastinating on, that's kind of got you in a little bit of paralysis, that tanks your energy in a negative way. And I want you to envision that you have done it. There's no more procrastination. There's no more trying. There's no more should. You are done. You are happy. You are feeling so fantastic because you did it. People around you are cheering and applauding if they're with you. But notice what's happening in your body when you get into this energy of I did it. There's such an expansion that happens from this place. And as you continue to see yourself done, you've done and you did it. Again, I'm going to ask you to rate yourself. How likely from this energy how likely are you to engage in getting out of paralysis and making changes? So open your eyes and come back to me. And share again, if you will, in the chat what your number is right now.
They're starting to come in. We have a 9. Someone moved from a 6 to an 8, they said. That was the person who was the 6 to 6.
Okay.
And a 9. From 2 to 6 now.
Yeah.
An 8. Another 8.
Yeah. Okay, so I think most of you guys are feeling the difference in this energy, and you can feel it in your body. And the ideas and the possibilities that come from this energy space are much more likely to create long-term sustainable change. The neutral energy creates the good intentions, it creates steps, it can get you started. But when you start from a more resonant, thrilling energy, your motivation, you're more likely to stay motivated for longer. And that for myself and with my own client work. And it doesn't have to be the visualization I did, depending on the circumstances or the goal. I can use a future self, you can use a meta view, you can, whatever works for you and that resonates with you. But what you can see is that bringing your energy up to this level can be a really good thing for creating change with your clients. So from here, it seems like it would be logical to start making the plans, right? And you can, and there's nothing that's wrong with that. But I want to share with you guys one other step that you can take that is just going to blow this out of the water. And most of you are probably familiar with it, but what we want to do at this point is we want to stretch ourselves or our client into what we call the gulp point, where you are setting a goal for yourself that's just high enough that makes you, and then as you exhale, it kind of goes, oh, wow. And it starts to feel kind of good. And I'm banking that all of you have done that. But the gulp point has a couple of purposes. And what it isn't is necessarily intended to deepen, take more action. So I'm going to share with you guys, this is one of my gulp exercises that I did about 6 months ago. And there were a couple of them that totally took me to the gulp point after I wrote them down. And one of them was, and I don't know, hope you can see my cursor, but if you can, it's the first one in red. And it says, do it with art, self-discovery product line. And when I wrote that down, oh my God, you know, just I can know. And then within a couple hours, I was on Google looking at what other people were doing. And I'm actually going to be, in the next couple months, launching some art-related self-discovery products. So the expansion that came with me pushing myself higher, it didn't necessarily create a new goal for myself, but it created a new enthusiasm and energy that allowed me to think bigger and see a bigger picture by looking at other people's stuff. The second thing that really made my heart go was the next red one, and it says collaborate with renowned people like Melissa Etheridge or Pink. Now, I'm not even sure the gulp went away with that one because the saboteurs were immediately like, no way in hell is that ever going to happen. And I will tell you that in March, I am going to be at a meet and greet with Pink. And so what happens when you do the gulp point, it isn't so much that the action is opening up, but you're actually activating the law of attraction and universal energetic support. And once you are aligned with your heart and your enthusiasm, you set a goal, you take it up to the gulp to open up the energy. Opportunities will often start showing up that you weren't expecting. And whatever you're doing becomes easier, more enjoyable, and ultimately more sustainable. I hope that resonates with you guys because I have seen it in action in my own life, and it's just something that I believe in so, so strongly. And there's one other piece of this that I'm going to add for you guys, and this was shared with me with a very, very wise woman, Susie Q. Woods, who is the founder of New Balance magazines. And she challenged me to add to my intentions and goals that I set, or anything better that supports universal law and my soul purpose. And the universal law and my soul purpose is unique to me. It could be that supports spirit's goals for me. It could be for what I'm meant to do. But what you're putting into the universe is that you know that there might be something better out there for you that you're not even aware of. But if you open up that energy, things happen. And about 3 weeks after I started using this mantra with my goal setting work, I was pulling into a corporate lunch and learn that I was doing, checking my email real quick before I went in, and I looked down and I see in the message subject, request for interview from the Wall Street Journal. And talk about a gulp. And then the saboteurs said, oh, it's a scam. It's not really true. So I looked at it more closely. It was true. I texted back, yes, absolutely. And then I went on to my meeting, and I actually ended up being in my work was in the Wall Street Journal in September this past year. So that's a really great example of something better that I would never have dreamed of happening. But because I was willing to open myself to what could happen, it did. So that's the point of the gulp, the purpose of the gulp, and adding that into the process of creating sustainable change. So right now, I'm just breathing because I've shared a lot of information right now, and I took myself back into the gulp energy. But you guys saw that. And then that relaxation when I exhaled. And that breath is the point in which my excitement took over my fear. And another really wise statement that I challenge you guys to consider is that fear is just excitement without breath. And when you have a gulp moment and that naysaying stuff starts up, breathe. And if you don't quite get it, breathe again. But this is a really great way to cement the intentions and the commitment and the achievement of making sustainable change in the long term. So fear is excitement without breath. That's a pretty big statement. And that is the conclusion of the first part of my presentation, because I wanted you guys to really understand how important body awareness and motivation is and really getting to the point where you can move towards sustaining change. So I'm going to ask you guys one more time. Right now, that thing that you know you were procrastinating on, knowing this, how likely are you to engage in attempting to change it? And it may be that the change may be you let it go. But how willing are you going to be to step out of that icky body feeling, procrastination paralysis stuff, and find a new way? So go ahead and write your number, and we'll see what happens.
The first one that's come through, they've gone from an 8 to a 9.
Okay.
Then we have a 7. Let's see what they were before. So it was before a 6 to an 8, now at a 7.
Okay.
And then someone who was 6s before moves into an 8.
Okay.
We have a 9, so getting very high.
Yeah. You guys are doing great. Thank you so much for playing with me.
We even have a 10.
Awesome. Okay, that 10, hold on to it because I'm going to challenge you to take a small action later. But what we can see is that the gulp kind of helps cement our commitment. The energy may not be quite as high as it was when we were in the midst of the visualization, but it's maintaining. It's not, the brain isn't coming back in and kicking it all the way back down. And so some of the things that we've learned, just knowing them, can really help reduce the guilt, the shame, the reluctance, the procrastination that we all experience. And so if you have any questions about what we've talked about so far, the motivation part of this, I want to ask you to be sure and capture them and write them down, because I'm going to move now into a short segment on a couple other things that are really critical to move beyond procrastination paralysis. So hold those questions. I'm really looking forward to answering them. So, okay, we're leaving fear and excitement. Well, we're keeping the excitement, we're leaving the fear. But the question now becomes, once you're motivated, okay, that's kind of weird. Keely, it sounds like recording is happening here. Playing.
You hear something on your side?
Sorry, I was hearing myself talking. That's really wild. Okay, so what creates sustainable, long-lasting change? That was my question. And what I found is that it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't a really great process with a bunch of things you check off and move forward. It wasn't having a wonderful accountability partner. And what made the biggest difference in being able to sustain long-lasting change is compassion for yourself and what you're experiencing. I want to say that again because this is so ridiculously important. We saw in the beginning of this presentation, and we felt in our bodies what our brains do when we start to consider stepping out of the comfort zone and doing something different. And it wasn't pretty. I mean, I'm sorry, our brains get mean. Our inner saboteurs are nasty, and we don't deserve that. We are human beings. We saw that it's not like we have a choice. We're hardwired this way. So how can we continue to beat ourselves up for something that isn't even our fault? You know, for me, that was one of the biggest light bulbs I've ever experienced in my entire life was, wow, I don't have to be perfect. And it's okay. I'm normal. Everybody's like me. So take that in, and let's kind of start to apply this to the process. So let's start with the should. First of all, any good coach knows that your client is not going to be allowed to start off with should. So I'm counting on you guys to manage that with your clients and yourself. Where it starts to get more interesting is when we get into the I don't. And that's where our brain stories come up. And the biggest one that I get from my clients is putting myself first is selfish and wrong. And you guys probably hear that. I don't have enough time or money. You know, someday I'll get to slow down and take care of myself. But all of these things that are happening here, there's not a lot of compassion in them. And so with clients, it's really hard occasionally for them to be able to see that. So my favorite tool to do this, and you may have good ones too, but I'm going to share mine, is I ask my client to consider it from a new perspective. And let's say she's just told me that she really wants to lose weight. She's really struggling with it. She's just so stuck. So the conversation would go something like this. My client's name is Melissa. So Melissa, let's pretend that this is your sister talking. And your sister has come to you and she has said, you know what? I want to lose weight really bad because I feel really awful about myself and my clothes don't fit and I can't really afford to buy any new clothes. And, but my families and my job, they just take up so much of my time, and I'm not willing to not take care of my kids the best way I can or sacrifice any little thing that I can do for them because they need me, and it's my responsibility to take care of them. And I will say this, and then I will say, so what would you say to your sister, Melissa? What would you tell her right now? And there's usually this dead silence, and then she says, well, I tell her that she needs to take care of herself and do it. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to tell her she's a selfish bitch. You're going to want to help her. You're going to want her to be healthy and take care of herself, and you're going to want to support her in that. And then my next question is always, so if your sister deserves that from you, why don't you deserve that from yourself? And that opens the door for some compassion. And then the compassion can be moved into the next part of it, which is the I'm a bad person, the saboteur stuff that always comes up. And like you guys to meet, Little Miss Not Perfect Enough, she has been one of my saboteurs ever since I've known what saboteurs were. And my favorite way to put her in her place years when I first became aware of her was to beat the crap out of her and run her through a grinder. I mean, is there any compassion in that? Not really. But it worked for me at that point in time. And it works for clients who are still really angry and they need to release stuff before they can move into a more compassionate way of being. But now what I do, and I recommend my clients, is a compassionate conversation that says, hey, Little Miss Perfect Enough, I know that you have really helped me throughout my life. You have challenged me to go further, but I'm sorry, I can't take you being mean to me anymore. So what I'd like to invite you to do is to continue to let me know what you think I could do better, but to be my partner in this and do it in a loving, kind way. Quit being mean to me. I can't take that anymore. And amazingly enough, your saboteur will listen to you and it will get easier. And it's a really beautiful thing to see happen. So with replacing stories with compassion, something really magical happens. When we replace our stories and self-criticism with truth and compassion, it literally reprograms our brain's automatic responses over time. And I'm going to say that again. Replacing our stories and self-criticism with truth and compassion reprograms our brain's automatic responses over time. I'm sure you all are aware of all of the new burgeoning science and evidence behind this correlation. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm not so into the why of it, but I know it works because it works for me, it works for my clients. And now when Little Miss Perfect Enough wants to share something with me, she's a whisper instead of a screaming voice. And she's usually nice to me. And I get really good feedback from her. So this is the why of compassion. This is the why. It reprograms the automatic response over time. And I bet we have some people on this call who could talk really deeply more about this. So we'll probably do another program down the line. But for now, I just want you guys to breathe into this truth. The truth of that we don't always have to be in procrastination or paralysis. We don't always have to default to a negative. We don't have to listen to our reptilian brain and the learned beliefs and the societal expectations. All we really have to do is learn to breathe and listen to our body in the moment that we become aware that something's off. And the more you breathe and make a different choice, the quicker the reprogramming happens. So that's a big tool for you guys and something to take away. The last thing that it's really important about sustainable change that I want to share with you guys is this. Typically, our culture thinks of change as we start where we are and we make a straight line of where we want to end up. And once we get to there, we are successful. Yay, applause for us. We did it. We made it up that line. And this, my friends, to me, in my world, is basically an obscene expectation of what change should be like. Human beings don't go from A to Z perfectly without ever faltering. And if we do, we're missing a lot of learning opportunities and new possibilities. And when we consider that success only comes at the end, we're 1,000 times more likely to give up somewhere down the line. So what we want to replace this with is the clear understanding that change is not a straight line. It's a 3-step forward, 1 step back, stuck period that happens. And that progress is each small step. So when my clients come to me and they're starting to set the goals and they want to do this great big long outline of every step they're going to take from there, I stop them. I say, no, you have the beginning and you have the end. And then you're going to stand your first small step. And then when you go from a 3 to 3.5, you're going to celebrate it and say, yay, I did this. And that part of it, the small step in celebrating, it keeps sustainable change going because there's compassion in it and there's rewards before you get to the end of the line. And when they come in saying, you know, Paula, I was just doing so great and all of a sudden I'm just stuck. I think I'm back in procrastination paralysis again. I say, well, maybe, but you were moving strong last week. So I think that the stuckness is the point in the process where you're supposed to be. Congratulations. You're at the point of the process where all of this work and growth that you've been doing is now acclimating and solidifying in your body. And your body has to show down a little bit to help that happen. So I challenge you, my client, to let go of needing to move any further on this right now. Shift your attention to something else that lights you up. And this will come back around, but your body needs the space to integrate it. And sure enough, a week or two later, they come back, oh my God, you were so right. All of a sudden, that saboteur that was making me crazy, it's not doing it anymore. And I'm not stuck, I'm back at full speed. And that's what the beauty is of the compassion and understanding that there's always ups and downs. There's always going off track. And there's always a stuck point for integration before you make that next leap up to the higher level. And so this is something that I consider to be the last fundamental piece of what we're doing. And right now, I would like to invite you guys to, if you can, stand up. If you can't, stay seated. But I want you to stand up and give yourselves a standing ovation. Yay! You guys have gone from 3 to 3.5. And I want you to feel how great it feels in your body to stand up and applaud yourself. I'm still tingling from it. I only clapped a few times. This is a game changer for my clients when I teach them to give themselves standing ovations and talk about a tool for maintaining motivation to get beyond the paralysis and the struckness. If you're giving yourself a standing ovation for every small step you take, you've got it. I mean, there's nothing else really to learn. So to recap, sustainable change happens when we, first of all, accept that human beings are hardwired to struggle with change. It's normal and it's okay. There is no guilt or shame allowed. When we recognize and move out of procrastination paralysis, simply by using breath or hugging yourself or a mantra or a great coach or whatever it is, but we have to know when we're in it so that we can get out of it. When we use our breath and our body awareness to assess what is true and what motivates us best. This is sustainable change. When we create and expand our big picture goals and strategies from inspired energy and then move into the brain, we're not only harnessing the power of the law of attraction, but we're sustaining, we're reprogramming our brains to respond differently in the future. And when we show compassion and respect to ourselves and our saboteurs, there's a lightness and a beauty that comes into being alive that it's a physical weight that lifts off you energetically. And last but not least, when we accept that the process of change is not a straight line, that success is found in each small step, and that perfection is an unachievable goal, we have come to the point where we are so resilient and so able to assess what's going on and respond to it, that we can sustain change in whatever areas we choose for the rest of our lives, because we have the tools, the knowledge, and the ability to do it. And this is my goal for you guys. This is my goal for myself. And this is the goal for my clients. And I do have to share, I wanted just to share with you guys today that I used every single one of the tools that I have shared with you today, putting this presentation together and preparing to present to you. I do a lot of speaking and I present a lot, and it doesn't scare me. But you guys are my peers, and you matter to me. So I went in and out of every single thing and used every single tool that I've shared with you multiple times over the last few days, just getting ready for this event. So I'm going to take us one more time. Breathe. Just take a couple breaths with me. Because truthfully, I needed the reset. I'm a little bouncy now from everything that I've been sharing with you guys. So I want to close with one other thing, some words from Chris Germer. And he says, a moment of self-compassion can change your entire day. A string of such moments can change the course of your life. And that's what we're really talking about here, my friends, is how compassion for ourselves gives us the ability to do and create anything that we want, no matter what it is. So if you would like to know more about body awareness, sustainable change, feel free to reach out to me. But for now, what I would like to do is just to quit talking and to open up the opportunity for you guys to ask questions. So you can put your questions into chat. I'm going to stop sharing, so I hopefully will be able to see them, and Keely will be guiding me as well. But I want to hear what you think about what I've been talking about, because it's pretty, to me, it's second nature, but to some people it's kind of like crazy talk. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm back here. I can see the chat. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask at this point in time? No questions? I'm a little surprised.
Well, while they're thinking, Paula, I just want to say thank you. That was so energetically impactful and really took away some tidbits that will be helpful for me in my coaching. So thank you.
Thanks, Keely. I appreciate that. And this is stuff that can kind of sometimes take a little while to sink in. And for me, it's become a way of life because I like not carrying the weight of procrastination, shame, and guilt around with me. Mm-hmm. But it's also been a way that has really given me the opportunity to grow in my work. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I see Bradford has a question. How do you handle a client who may be resistant to this method or process? That's a really good question. And usually what I will do if a question a person is resistant is, first of all, I acknowledge it and I make sure that they're not making themselves wrong for being resistant, because they're a human being and they're sharing their humanness with me. So then I'll typically take it down a notch. It's okay, so we don't have to go all the way into talking about the brain, but let's just take a few breaths together and tell me what you feel in your body. And that people are usually willing to do that. And then once they can feel their body, then you can start to connect them with emotions. That's one way. Another way that you can bring it into play is if they're already in a dramatic or kind of aroused, difficult place. Again, if you can interrupt them and ask them just to breathe with you 3 times, their brain chemistry resets, so they calm down, and you can ask them if they felt the difference. And if they say yes, that's progress, and that's all you really need to do the first time. So if people aren't open to moving into it more fully in a straight line or fairly quickly, I stick with the very basic tools of breath, awareness, and compassion. And I find ways to build compassion for themselves. And if they're not, have no self-compassion, like I have had in my lifetime, I put it in the terms of someone else, you know, and pull it back. So I don't know, is that helpful? And if they're totally resistive and they're just not ready for it, then I let it go. And I work with them with my other coaching tools, and I bring it back when I see an opportunity to. And I hope that helps, Brad. Thank you. Let's see, I love some of the comments here. What are the most important activities we should add in our daily routine? Mindfulness, absolutely. And there are three things that I believe are really, really critical to this. And one is definitely a practice of quieting the mind and with breath, because you have to, even if it's simply the 3 breaths and you're reconnected. If you can learn to use that tool, start to learn to use that tool of recognizing in your body when something's off and then breathing and engaging, that is the absolute most important thing that you can do. And you can practice that. You can actually picture yourself in let's say yesterday there was something that happened, it was still kind of making you crazy. You can consciously choose to go back into that energy. And then you can do the breath and the hug, and you know, it helps. I also feel that a daily practice of, in the prayer that I shared, just like me, that is actually a Buddhist practice, and you can use it in anything. But whenever something upsets me or I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, I go into just like me. Everybody gets really terrified when they're fixing to present something new to people that they really respect and admire. You know, it's okay that I'm feeling just I'm not functional today. It's okay that I'm not going to be able to produce today what I wanted to do in my work, because energetically I'm processing. Just like me, other people feel guilty, they feel afraid, they feel disconnected. But there's something about tying what we are feeling to the concept of shared humanity that creates an ease and over time shifts your energy into a more compassionate way of being. And when you're more compassionate with yourself, you're more compassionate with other people as well. So mindful, even 3 minutes of just breathing and listening to your body a day, definitely practicing the shared humanity. And truthfully, this one isn't in my presentation, but this is one that I recommend to everybody, is some type of gratitude practice. Whether it's writing down 5 things you're grateful, make you happy, that someone did nice for you, put them in a jar, write them in a jane, recite them to yourself before you go to bed. But there's something about the practice of gratitude that creates, really supports health, wellness, and sustainable change. Closing code, thank you. The closing code is change. So sustain is the opening code and change is the closing code. And we have 4 or 5 minutes left of our time. Let's see, what do you recommend when a client does not have any compassion for him or himself? How to start with them? I really recommend that you start by transferring what they're feeling to somebody that they care about, and ask them to respond to how they would help that person. And if a client just absolutely does not have any compassion for themselves ever, it's probably going to show up in other ways in their lives. And if I had a client who was that deeply disconnected with compassion for themselves, I would want to be really sure that they might not also need professional support from a therapist or some type of more intensive energy cleansing from a healer, a healing practitioner. So that's what I would do. And I also would, you know, I think we have to have frank conversation to say, you know, gosh, I'm noticing how hard you are on yourself, and it makes me really sad for you. I'd like to help you with that, because I have real compassion for what you're doing, and I've been there myself. So any compassion you show them will help build that in themselves as well. And thanks for asking, Viviana. That's a great question. And again, thank you. We so appreciate you. Keely, you were a lifesaver here for me. I really appreciate you. I hope to see all of you guys on February 21st. And just keep your eye on your email and social media from us, because we have a lot of great stuff coming up this year. Thanks so much. And I'm going to close the meeting now with a smile in my heart, because I got to spend this time with y'all. Have a good day.